day. Watch them as they walked him away. You told yourself extremists come in all different shapes. Met his eyes and lowered your gaze. But is it too late for us to ever change? When we are collecting the dust of better days, they're always watching us, but we're never safe. We're not meant to be safe, not meant to escape. We aren't meant to wake. Sheriff stopped your daughter today. Pepper sprayed her twice in the face. He must have had good reason if he'd treat her that way. At least that's what they've taught you to say. But is it too late for us to ever change? Once we're collecting the dust of better days, they're always watching us, but we're never safe. We're not meant to feel safe, not meant to escape. We aren't meant to wake. Feds arrived and had you detained. Said you'd made some posts they want changed. Tased you till you felt like you'd forgotten your name, or life before they had you contained. Life before they had you contained. SWAT team took your neighbor today. Maybe that's how it goes. We won't open our eyes, so we're the last ones to know. We're the last ones alive, kept our enemies close. Wondered why we don't thrive while we're grasping at ghosts, counting backwards from 5, counting backwards from 5, counting backwards from 5.
Count back from 5. The theater on fire, the cast on strike. The studio stock starts taking a dive. The contracts tossed and they're gone with the tide. And the heads and execs, their hands are tied. We can't pump this track and treat you right. But what do you expect from the industry type who survive by the leeching of bodies and minds? From those who original thoughts never seem to find. So they're gonna reboot ALF before your wages rise. And it gives cause to pause and reflect on the times. If they're losing control of their fools and their mimes, when all those obedient actors who grew their careers by averting their eyes are now holding the line, along with the authors of countless scripts that strengthen the hand of that corporate grip, squeezing our throats till we take the pen and we accept and consent to the corporate drip. Till you're all up to date on your pharma du jour, till you got a healthy support for the war on your lips. And now you know that the advertisers need more than a rerun summer full of flashback clips. enter the scans from the year before. All the days of de-aging and mapping the face, and the hours of actors recording their voices are links in the chains that will bind them in place. Now all of those shows are so easy to make. When they got a drone they control that needs no break, it can bend, it can break, and it's cheaply replaced enough up-to-date films all in one take. And those studios bank on us doing our duty, unhinging our jaws and digesting the fakes. Because they know that we'll love how synthetic it tastes. Watch as they edit your features without any trace. Not that there's anything you could do anyway. Now watch as they show you a movie you saying shit you would never say. Dystopia boldly accelerates. Maybe you're only a mold, something to fill with a clone, something that Elon would celebrate. Something they own, something they program and code, something that's woefully able to know it's exanimate. Cause it doesn't feel touch over top of the laminate. You will not feel an emotion, but they will not scan and examine it. You and the other consumer contaminants fed on the federal diet of Kiev, Havana, and Tiananmen. I can't be the only one weighing the pros of abandonment. I can't be the only one weighing the pros of abandonment.
Where did you think we'd go? Love, there's nowhere to lie. Guess it's not who you know, more it's what you can hide. Like we're chained to the floor, they're streaming us live while we're watching the war, counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards. I know you hated being forced awake. I know they wrapped you in the warmest chains, and I know they're so hard to break. You only said what you were made to say. I can't imagine how you feel today, now that you're watching as it caves away. While you were telling us to keep the faith, I bet you wondered why they made you wait. I bet you wondered why they made you wait.
Pity not the vultures, they've enough to eat. Pity not the structures laying at your feet. Cannot see the sky, but there's this rainbow in the creek that spells pity-free speech when we can't afford to speak. That's Agenda 2030 on some early release. It's just our policy of never-ending chemical leaks. That's the cholera awash in your embedded beliefs. It's the billionaires who tell you what you'd better believe. And sugar, if you don't agree, then that's what we call extreme. Now if that isn't fascism, I'm going back to sleep. Cause words have lost their meaning, and I'm trapped inside a dream where we turn the gears while living in the spaces in between.
I know you hated being forced awake.
If you thought you saw your freedom, it was truly a mirage. Freedom's locked a cell away from Julian Assange. Our First Amendment rights are by his side behind bars, and the next voices silenced will be ours. Rest assured, democracy is rotting in the dark. Rest assured, we vilified dissenters, pushed out black renters, and tore down their housing just to build a little urban park. God, I tell you, old America really knows how to leave its mark. Blaze a trail, leave 100 scars. Rip your free speech out your throat, demonize the man who told you it was so, and leave him freezing in a cell in Belmarsh, perpetually awaiting extradition, thrown to the wolves of claustrophobia and malnutrition. And all that we can hope is that we catch Uncle Joe in a fleeting lucid moment of his flickering senile fascist mission. That maybe we could trick him into thinking Julian is just some sweet blonde middle school Christian, and she got mixed up with a few bad apples, slapped with some charges, and thrown into prison. Joe would set him free without a moment's hesitation under one condition: that he can sniff her hair before she goes back to school and he goes back to business. But if Joe's just had his shots, then we haven't got a chance of getting past his black and white vision, getting past his gut reaction to appease all of his donors' sick requests and shape policy and law around corporate mandated decisions. So really, all along, I think Julian was one man standing in a tempest with the fearlessness of true conviction. And if his is the only conviction we see after he shed a light on this country's most poisonous schemes all come to fruition, and we all collectively stare at the ground because we felt like our hands were too tied beyond signing petitions, while he's tortured to death for attempting to warn and enlighten admittedly not quite the brightest of citizens, and half of this country just won't take the time to uncover the truth, or they just don't mind, so they're quick to dismiss it and say it's a difficult position. Then we're back to the comfort of centrist delusion. We're right back to sleep for those ignorant sheep who resisted themselves into one protracted contusion, twisting themselves into knots to correct all your stimulus check-based confusion, wrapping their necks around their backs as they justify overflow migrant detention or fracking pollution. Then Kamala laughs, and the camera pans down to her shoes. And that footage is 90% of your 6 o'clock news. Except for a feel-good story about a man who at 95 years young just made Employee of the Month at Whole Foods. And the $50 gift card means this month he'll afford his prescriptions and meals, and he won't have to choose. This is the machine that a man named Julian Assange threw his body on the gears of for you. So to cry out for his freedom is the least that we can do. Now best believe the feds will serve to muddy up the truth, but rest assured the temperature in Belmarsh is an icy 22, and Julian is shivering in a solitary room without a view. Rest assured Obama loves a whistleblower just about as much as he loves weddings where he doesn't get to detonate the groom. Rest assured Obama bought the plot where all our First Amendment rights are gonna rot and demanded that they carve his smiling likeness on the tomb. So that when you come to pay respects to your free speech rights and a somber feeling hits you and you look up to the sky, the answer will be staring you right in the eyes to the questions of why and of who. So if you thought you saw your freedom, then they wanted you to. Human rights are mutable, and Julian is proof. Our First Amendment rights are stuck in solitary too. And the next voice silent might be you.
You know, sir, I like you much better with my glasses off.
I guess I was born with the curse of foresight, 'cause I knew Joe was only gonna represent the war side. And that said, I just came to fight. You could keep the ore flight. Save the surprise and the gasp when the shadow of the fascists have cast is on your doorstep in the glow of your porch light. Save the surprise when the grid goes down and we go underground to lick wounds in the gloom of a torchlight.
Just an off-the-cuff chat between you and me. Us. We want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Who are these people?
It's us. We're these people.
I love that intro. I love that intro so much.
I'm here with a different co-host this time, Oz LaFave.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me on.
Friend of the show, DJ Joe Nice. How are you, friend?
What's good? And you hear Nick say this all the time. The United States is the most propagandized country in the world. We are so fucked, you guys. Again, I'm sorry for being cynical, but seriously, we're fucked. We are fucked. We are well and truly fucking fucked.
Just appreciate all the work that you do and the platforms that you all are providing.
Hey, doing good. How are you guys doing?
I think as independent media, we have a responsibility to be, we don't hide our bias, obviously, but we must stay true to the facts.
What's up, Pam?
Cheers and salutations. Smoke them if you got them.
But I am here with a man that I've been waiting to talk to for the last couple of years, Nico House.
As an educator, what I would suggest is that, first of all, podcasts like these are made.
So you need to be an example for the people and for the future, knowing that your words can actually change the future.
What do you feel? What would Kwame Ture feel we would have to do?
Well, politics is every day of every minute. You have to be aware of what's going on. Not voting on one day, so the vote has never meant anything. So I'm not a Democrat.
See, I would call that guy the Black Obama.
No. The issues that we talk about, listen to us.
As always, kids, labels are bad. Stay independent. Good night, fam.
INN News.
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
Collin, why are you infinite? Why are you the infinite Collin? What's up, Collin? It's INN News, everybody. Welcome. It's me, Reef Breland, with my co-host, as always, Collin Radix-Carter, a.k.a. Care Bear. Care Bear, how are you?
Not bad. How are you, Reef?
I'm doing okay. If my tooth doesn't freak out more, I should be fine. I go to the dentist Monday, so yay. But yeah, we do have a lovely guest with us this evening. Day X is coming up, as you all should know by now. So I figured we'd bring on one of the activists other than Misty this time. There is other ones. So without further ado, we're going to bring on Kendra Christian. I think that's how you pronounce things, hopefully. Hi, Kendra. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys? Thanks for having us on. Appreciated.
I'm fantastic. So we wanted to bring a bit of one of our favorite writers, Caitlin Johnstone. So she writes The War on Journalism in Belmarsh, The War on Journalism in Gaza, correct? So this was when? January 25th. So not too long ago. Cool. So she writes, I haven't written much about Julian Assange lately because I've been so fixated on what's been happening in Gaza, but we should all be acutely aware that the 20th and 21st of February may be WikiLeaks founders' final chance to avoid extradition to the United States to face persecution for the crime of good journalism. Assange and his legal team will face 2 High Court judges during the 2-day hearing in London, who will then determine whether or not the UK will allow the Australian journalist to be dragged to the US in chains for a crooked show trial and cast into one of the world's most draconian prison systems for exposing the war crimes of the world's most powerful government, as you do. Some US lawmakers are attempting to block the extradition from the other end with House Resolution 934, which asserts that regular journalistic activities are protected under the First Amendment, and that the United States ought to drop all charges against and attempts to extradite Julian Assange. If charges were dropped, it would not only prevent the extradition, but allow for Assange to be freed from the Belmarsh maximum security prison, where he has been jailed by the British government since 2019, with 9 years in an Ecuadorian embassy before that, if I'm not mistaken. So, here's WikiLeaks. Call your reps today and urge them to sign Resolution 934. Regular journalistic activities are protected under the First Amendment, and that the United States ought to drop all charges against attempts to extradite Julian Assange. Very simple. Very simple, people. The fight to free Assange is a fight to protect press freedoms around the world, since the U.S. is using the case in an attempt to set a legal precedent for extraditing and imprisoning any journalist or publisher anywhere in the world who shares information with the public that the U.S. doesn't want shared. And it's worth mentioning that this fight is not actually separate from the fight against Israel's efforts to keep journalism out of Gaza by assassinating reporters and blocking the press from entering the enclave. It's also not separate from humanity's overall struggle to build a truth-based civilization, nor ultimately from our greater struggle to become a conscious species. All throughout humanity, there are pushes toward truth and seeing and pushes towards secrecy and darkness. In the press, we see both the authentic journalists like Assange who want all that is hidden to be made transparent, and the propagandists of the mainstream media who work to obfuscate and distort the truth. Those who seek the emergency of a harmonious and truth-based society want as much visibility into what's happening as possible, while tyrannical powers such as the U.S. empire and Israel are constantly working to dim the lights. Collin, Kendra, thoughts so far?
I always love reading one of Caitlin's articles. Actually, when Assange was first, dragged out of the embassy, illegally renditioned out of the embassy, she had this wonderful article that the Ron Paul Institute actually reposted, where she was just, she just called out everybody and was like, shame, shame. And she's, for us activists, she put, she says it very clearly, what's at stake. And there's also, she has a great article for anybody who's interested that just, it debunks every smear that you've heard about Assange. So
Yep.
Well said, Caitlin, again.
Yeah, she always manages to say the things I'm thinking somehow. It's very nice.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Collin, you're no stranger to Caitlin. What's your thoughts?
No. When is she ever wrong?
Good question. I'm sure there's a couple of times, right?
But
I'm sure her husband could come up with a few.
But he'd be wrong.
He'd be wrong. That's right. She tells him to read her words, and that's what we do. So here's Stella. Day X is here. The public hearing at the Royal Courts of Justice will be on the 20th and 21st of February. Maybe the final chance for the UK to stop Julian's extradition. Gather outside the court, 8:30 a.m. on both days. Man, we got to get up early to fight injustice. Can we do this after 12? Just me. So wherever you see domination and abuse, you see efforts to limit perception and keep human minds from seeing and understanding what's going on. It's true of empires, it's true of governments, it's true of cult leaders, it's true of abusive spouses, and it's true of the unpleasant dynamics within our own psyches that we would rather not look at. The less seeing there is, the more abusiveness is possible, the more seen things become, the closer we get to freedom. I'm no prophet, but I strongly suspect that our future as a species will be determined by the outcome of this struggle. If the impulse toward truth and seeing wins out, we are probably headed toward a world of health and harmony. If the impulse to keep everything confused and hidden, unconscious wins, we are probably headed for dystopia and extinction. In any case, all we can do is fight to make things more visible so that health and harmony become possible, fight to make those things conscious within ourselves, fight to keep journalism legal in the shadow of the empire, fight to spotlight Israel's atrocities in Gaza, fight to make the unseen seen, fight to bring humanity into the light of consciousness. So, you wanted us to bring this video, correct, Kendra?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Perfect. It's super short. We love short videos. Cool. And if I just play.
So what are you guys doing here today?
So my name's Kendra, and I'm with Denver Action to Free Assange, and we're here today. We're a small group of activists, and we want to send a clear message to our elected representatives. We believe that they have an indisputable constitutional responsibility to uphold the First Amendment and by extension to free Julian Assange. And we thought we would write our request to them where everybody can see it in chalk on the steps of the Capitol. It's just chalk, it will wash away, be erased by the wind, rain, or snow in a few days. But the video we make here today will not be erased. And we'll do our best to make sure that many, many American citizens and even people around the world who feel as strongly about this issue as we do see it.
Here's the message you guys want to deliver here today.
It's a message to our local and federal representatives. We voted for you. We elected you to be our representatives. We want you to listen to what we're saying. We want you to listen to your own conscience. We want you to do the right thing. We want you to step up.
Since when is it a crime?
To report on secretive, illegal, and immoral criminal acts by the members of our government.
To expose corrupt, treasonous members of government sworn to uphold the Constitution for which it stands.
To count on, rely on, and trust in the principle of freedom of speech in reporting the truth.
To hold you, our representatives, accountable to uphold that principle.
Courageous journalist Julian Assange is not a criminal.
He is a hero acting in the living spirit of our individual sovereign freedom.
We ask you to not be hypocritical, negligent, misinformed, and disingenuous.
We ask you to do the right thing, represent us, we the people, and represent yourselves.
Uphold your sworn oath to the United States Constitution.
We know who you are. We're watching, waiting for you to act with integrity. To step up, to do the right thing.
Free Julian Assange now. Now.
Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange!
I mean, seems like a plan to me. So you run the Denver branch of Action for Assange, I think, correct?
So actually, we started on our own from the very beginning. So our group is, it's a similar name, but it's Denver Action to Free Assange. And gotcha. We're just completely independent, but definitely we've been working with Action for Assange from the very beginning. We both kind of started at the same time. And so Andrew and Taylor took on those vigils, and that's how we met Misty and everybody. But there's a real core group of people who really, stepped up right at the beginning, who we still talk to and still, work with. It's just amazing, good people through. And there's been quite a few things that have happened, in these past 5 years, but, people from all different political backgrounds and things, but that have, come together and supported each other on this issue, especially.
Yeah. So tell me, you have events happening on the 20th, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So that's 4 to 6 p.m., right? State Capitol. This is for Denver. Yeah. So and you got some guest MCs, right? I think we'll get to them in a bit. So yeah, any specifics you want to tell people on what they should do, where they should go on that?
Yeah, definitely. Come meet us there at 4 p.m. If you are interested in speaking, we have on our flyer now that little QR code, so you can click there and sign up if you want, which we'd like you to do just so we have kind of a general idea of how many more people will be speaking. But we do, we always open the mic to the crowd and anybody that's there that wants to have their say, because it's really, that's why we're out there, is so that everybody can have their say, but yeah, we'll have some great speakers there. We'll have Jessica Fensky, who spoke before at our rallies. She's Forest Mommy on Twitter. Mm-hmm. And she's great. I reached out to her. I reached out to a few people right away, and Jessica was like, of course, I'll come and speak, supports free press. So we have, one thing about our group that's important is that we are nonpartisan. We don't have a political ideology. We actually have, even from our very core committee at the very beginning, people from all different sides of the spectrum who've been now working together for 5 years. Everybody in that video, I love all those people, and lots of different views. But yeah, so we'll have Jessica Fensky speaking. We also have Dave Ashton and he's with KGNU, and he's going to come and speak and also do a write-up for us, which is so awesome, because it's really hard to get members of the press. I think when we've had some of these bigger events where, Julian's father, John Shipton, and brother Gabriel Shipton were in town, we have gotten some coverage. So we're happy about that. Appreciate Dave coming down. We'll have Jacob Loria speaking, and he's with the Libertarian Party. And then there is also a candidate running for Congress who supports Assange, and he's going to come and speak. His name is Galen Kent. I'll be speaking there. A lot of the activists that you saw in that video will be speaking. We have one activist, Justin, who is in there, and he's great. You know, he does his own little things around Colorado, and I'm going to be posting some stuff on that too. So lots of speakers, and then we'll have musicians there as well. So I'll have some musical performances.
Nice.
The guy who, Mike Chappelle is his name, he was speaking right after I was in that video. And he put on back in August, his idea was to do a, poetry and like song contest for Assange. So we brought a lot of local people together, and and since then some more people have become more involved, so it's been really neat. And a lot of those people were in that video. For instance, that whole video came about from a meeting, and Bros Roland, who I have that posted on our Twitter if you guys want to see more about that. But that was, all him, the script, he's like, hey, I have an idea. It's like, nice. Okay, I'll get a bunch of chalk and we'll meet there. And then he put that video together, which I think it's so amazing. I think he did such a good job. And the script is just, it's perfect. It's what we want to say and what our reps need to do. We do have, I'm just like going off because I don't have much time. So if you want to jump in here too.
You got all night. I could care not. I'm wondering, I'm wondering who's bringing tamales and green chili. I feel like that's important for Denver. Like I had
great Mexican.
Dude, I had family. My mother's from Pueblo, so it's like not too far away from you. So Colorado Springs, Pueblo, that area. So I know all about the tamales. I miss it so much. Mexican food there is legit.
It really is. We have great Mexican food.
So good. But anyway, so we have Free Assange news, right? And they are telling you about actionnetwork.org, right? Links description below. Right, and to donate to freeassange.org. Easy peasy. You got an extra $2 that you haven't given to Starbucks because we don't like them right now. You send it over there. So this lady, you know her, you love her, Miss Claire Daly. She's here to tell you what to do.
This is Claire Daly, MEP. I'm hoping that you can join me on February the 20th outside the Royal Courts of Justice in London to defend Julian Assange, defend a free press. This is the last-ditch attempt before the British courts to stop Assange's extradition. Please come along and join the protest. Imprisoning a person for reporting true information is never justifiable. Julian Assange is a political prisoner. Free Julian Assange.
I love her.
And you wonder why they censor her in Parliament. You wonder why that happens. So, like, literally they took the mic from her. It's so hilarious because she's just, like, used to it. She's just like, okay, I'm going to just start shouting now. I guess that's what I do now. Like, I had a microphone. Right. Now I don't. Anyway, like I said, links to donate in the description below. So another place to donate, Randy Credico, again, in the description below. He's doing another billboard truck. I know the billboard trucks have been a great success from what I've heard. So, Credico been out there handing out flyers, doing the duty. So, as well as Misty has a second billboard truck. Again, links to donate in the description. She's getting there. 6,000. Easy peasy. Done. So, this is probably late number. I'm sure there's more by now. So, Kendra, anyone I'm missing?
Well, I know you're going to have Halo on, I think next week, but she's also putting together her boxes, and those are super helpful. She sends those to activists all around the country, and they're all, they are like working boxes, so it's like stuff for you to do in there, but it's super helpful, especially for someone that's maybe just like kind of getting started or a smaller group. And honestly, even for our established group, it's been really helpful. And those, comment on those billboard trucks, that's a huge deal in a city like New York City, because there are a lot of people, even us, we our bubble. Yeah, and people just don't even know about it. People just don't know about it. I mean, Denver is pretty much a blackout for Assange, you know, and it's not because we haven't tried.
We need to make a Assange hot air balloon. That's what we need to do. You know,
one other thing people can do for the which a lot of our group, we already have a yellow ribbon there, but there's an activist, Truman Human, on X as well, and or Twitter. Sorry.
Right. It's always Twitter. It's fine. You never have to change. Change is bad.
But he writes, you know, you send him your name and you will be there, you know, in spirit and with a yellow ribbon. I mean, and this thing has just gotten gigantic. So it's really powerful. Yeah, it's representing people all around the world. So, you know, you can be there too on that day. So.
Skywriting, projector stuff, plenty of great ideas, people. Figure it out. Cardboard, Sharpie, you know, basic stuff. So, riddle me this, Batman. The High Court in London has ruled that people in Scotland and Northern Ireland will not be permitted to log in and witness online the crucial public February 20th Assange appeal hearing. They warn to do so will be contempt of court and up to 2 years in jail. Craig Murray.
Why?
Working on an article. Why? Good question. Good question. How do you enforce? What if I go watch Consortium News' coverage? I'm now heading to Belmarsh myself? Like, I say, you know, if my Scotland heritage has anything to do with it, they're gonna have lots of, they will just overrun you. This is how Scotland works. Like, they will just, you know, get a giant two-handed sword and be Mel Gibson in a field. This is what they do, you know? So, like, and they will do it in a skirt. So, figure it out. But, yeah, I mean, I just say have them all watch anyway. How many can you get to watch? They don't got that much prison space, you know? So...
Assange's heritage as well.
You're right. Is it? Good question. Yeah, my last name's Bruce, so theoretically I'm supposed to have a throne there, right? So, maiden name. But anyway, I think that's it. Any thoughts on Craig Murray and what he is reporting on that before we head out of here?
I was just gonna say, you know, it's unbelievable to see that. And that's the thing, is that's a lot of that. I do want to, you know, our two MCs, we've got Drew with Spiderland, and then also we posted about that, but I also want to read something from Sleepy, who's doing, you know, he has his own media. I need to connect you guys so that he can come on your show. You could come on your show. Not Sleepy Josh. We have our own Sleepy in Denver now. Okay. Sleepy awesome. I absolutely love him. All the Sleepies are great. I guess if you know a Sleepy, that's they're going to be awesome. But he had a good quote, and he had said this. This is posted for us too. I just want to make sure that I get this correct. But you know, he had said, he was talking just about the corruption, and he said, you know, the problem is that they also see a public that has not responded to protect brave people willing to speak up and expose a corrupt system. So I think, you know, Craig Murray's tweet is, you know, addressing what the consequences are of that. And if Assange is extradited, I mean, that's a completely closed court. It's something that most people, I think, don't even understand exists in the United States. And it does. And so that's, I mean, we here wouldn't know what's going on. I mean, God knows what they would come out with there, or what kind of jail time that would be, or what kind of jail time all the people reporting on Gaza right now would be looking at, you know. So it's a terrifying situation we're in. So we really hope that everybody will come out to join us for Day X. You know, we're going to keep standing up for this. Judy in our group has, you know, we have some other people that I just want to mention because they're pretty amazing and have been at it from the beginning. So we're going to have Bill House, been with me from the beginning. playing his song, The Messenger, which I posted recently as well. And then, you know, I do want to make a point that we have invited every single rep to speak. You know, we've sent them our video on House Resolution 934 and invited them to speak as well. So maybe one of them will show up. It would be great.
Yeah. One of them out of how many?
Well, we did the ones in Denver, on to the rest of Colorado, you know, so.
Have fun. But yeah, you got Drew and Mary, Spiderland, right? They're supposed to be there, I do believe.
Yeah, Drew and
So, one thing I wanted to get your opinion on was we've seen quite a few politicians recently mention that in their first days in office they would extradite or pardon Assange. Does that not? Wouldn't you have to have him convicted first to pardon?
No, I don't think you do, because that came up, and I can't explain all the technicalities of it, but that came up when, you know, when Trump was leaving office. There was a big movement to try to get him to pardon Assange. But I think what will happen is that I think a pardon is actually a good thing, because then I think that he can't be ever charged for that again either.
I think the thing is that he would be charged for that, though. Which would set precedent legally. You know?
I don't think so. I'm not positive. I would look into that, but I think that I would look into. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I know that you have to be definitely. Yeah, the charges are there, but I think that it's
like I don't think it's like you also run the DOJ. Just call them and have them drop the charges, and like. You know, statute of limitations on that means he would never get tried for it again, and there would be no precedent. So, I don't know.
I don't know. I would look into that, just because I do think it's something weird, you know, like a technicality with the law there. But pardon's not a bad thing, you know. But I agree. I mean, pardon him for what? He didn't do anything you know, for writing the truth as a foreigner.
Right.
You know, he's not even an American citizen. And by charging him under the Espionage Act, they're declaring every single member of the public as a hostile force. Yep. You know, it's ridiculous.
So, yeah, we will get, next week, we'll have Halo and Paula on, most likely talking about Boston and DC. So, Collin, you will definitely need to clear your schedule. You know, so, but yeah, anything else, Kendra, before we let you go here? Make sure we plug.
No, thank you for having us on. I really appreciate it. If you can, if you're in Denver, please join us on February 20th. It's a Tuesday from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Colorado State Capitol. Just come join us to stand up for Assange and your free press. We'd love to see you there.
Great. And I think I have your Twitter underneath you and links in the description below. Before we go, let's make sure I plug this. It is day 21, right? So, interesting backstory on the 21st day's post. This is what is it, Carmen de Santiago, right? So this is Julian imagines him walking this pilgrimage every day, right? As he walks his cell. And I think he said he wanted to complete the actual pilgrimage upon his freedom. So, yeah, nice.
Can I say one thing?
Please.
I'm sorry, I just remembered it. We also, after the rally, we're having an after rally meetup too at the Squirm Gallery. So more people will be gathering there. You know, just a community of people, just freedom-loving people. There'll be more music and things like that. So that's they've opened the gallery for that. So that'll be also after the rally. So it's just really a whole day for Assange. So if you can make it, you're welcome to come there too.
Perfect. Collin, anything else?
No, just want to appreciate you, Kendra, for your activism and, just helping people. I think what Kaylin said is true. I think Gaza has been kind of inundated in the news cycle, and for good reason, but we have to remember, what Assange has done, and that we still need to kind of lift him up in terms of activism for him as well, especially given the possible extradition here. So we need to do what we can to at least, at minimum, let the world know what Julian Assange stands for. And thank you and Misty and others for kind of leading that charge and helping people to keep that in their memories, in addition to everything else that's going on in the news right now.
Yep. So do all the things. Make sure to share this. It will be heavily suppressed, as I'm sure most of the Tonight Show will be. So hit that share button. I don't know if it does anything, but we'll find out. Leave a comment. That I know does some stuff. So let us know what you think. So hit the like and subscribe. You know what to do already. Very easy. Kendra, thank you for coming so much. We appreciate what you do. So to our audience, we're gonna be right back. So don't go nowhere. And we're just gonna say bye to our guest and be right back. So enjoy the Jesse Jet tunes while you wait.
How it goes, we won't open our eyes, so we're the last ones to know, we're the last ones alive, kept our enemies close, wondered why we don't thrive, while we're grasping at ghosts, counting backwards from 5, counting backwards from 5, counting backwards from 5.
Count back from 5. The theater on fire, the cast on strike. The studio stock starts taking a dive. The contract's tossed and they're gone with the tide. The heads and execs, their hands are tied. We can't pump this dreck and treat you right. But what do you expect from the industry type who survive by the leeching of bodies and minds? From those who original thoughts never seem to find. So they're gonna reboot ALF before your wages rise. And it gives cause to pause and reflect on the times. If they're losing control of their fools and their mimes, when all those obedient actors who grew their careers by averting their eyes are now holding the line, along with the authors of countless scripts that strengthen the hand of that corporate grip, squeezing our throats till we take the pen and we accept and consent to the corporate drip, till you're all up to date on your pharma du jour, till you got a healthy support for the war on your lips. And now you know that the advertisers need more than a rerun summer full of flashback clips. Enter the scans from the year before, all the days of de-aging and mapping the face, and the hours of actors recording their voices are links in the chains that will bind them in place. Now all of those shows are so easy to make. When they got a drone they control that needs no break, it can bend, it can break, and it's cheaply replaced enough up-to-date films all in one take. And those studios bank on us doing our duty, unhinging our jaws and digesting the fakes. Because they know that we'll love how synthetic it tastes. Watch as they edit your features without any trace. Not that there's anything you could do anyway. Now watch as they show you a movie you used saying shit you would never say. Dystopia boldly accelerates. Maybe you're only a mold, something to fill with a clone, something that Elon would celebrate. Something they own, something they program and code, something that's woefully able to know it's exanimate. Cause it doesn't feel touch over top of the laminate. You will not feel an emotion, but they will not scan and examine it. You and the other consumer contaminants fed on the federal diet of Kiev, Havana, and Tiananmen. I can't be the only one weighing the pros of abandonment. I can't be the only one weighing the pros of abandonment.
Where did you think we'd go? love, there's nowhere to lie. Guess it's not who you know, more it's what you can hide. Like we're chained to the floor, they're streaming us live while we're watching the war, counting backwards from 5, counting backwards from 5, counting backwards from 5.
Who are these people?
What's up, everybody?
We're back.
We're back. Look at that.
Hi,
We went to a
everyone.
card. You didn't have to listen to samba music. I mean, I'm doing great.
Although I don't think they play much samba anymore.
You don't think so? Would they switch to? Please tell me it's that hold music that's like the fire hold music. The da 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 da.
I don't think they. I think they've switched out. I think they switched out the music. But people in the chat, if you watch Jimmy, shout out to Jimmy. You know, they would. People in the chat will tell you what kind of music they're playing, but I think they switched that out a while ago.
I kind of like the samba, honestly. Maybe it was me.
Yeah, but I think just like with everything, it gets kind of tired when you play that every stream.
Yeah, you needed more samba, better, bigger, stronger samba. Anyway, speaking of shout outs, shout out to Kendra, just came on the show. Appreciate that. If you missed that, go check that out. I'll annotate that clip if you're watching this as a clip. But what else did we bring today, Care Bear?
So this was somewhat of a tough prep week for me because there were no stories that I was interested in talking about. I think I might be just fatigued, honestly, just given
we've been covering a lot of the same. Yeah.
A lot of the same and a lot of which in a way is a good thing, but at the same time I think just there's certain, and we've said this, there's certain stories that if you are hearing it on other independent media channels, we don't necessarily feel compelled to talk about it. Like, you don't want to hear us talk about the same thing that you hear
everybody
other
else
people
is covering.
say the exact same thing. We're probably going to say the same thing, if not similar. So, but it gives us more room to.
You did good on this thumbnail.
So that being said, we will in a minute talk about how there was a new bill that was being proposed for, I believe it was like 17.6 billion, I believe.
Yeah.
To go to Israel, and by the gods that failed in the House. So that's Mike Johnson, the majority leader of the Democratic Party in the House. So he's looking a little sad that didn't go through. So we'll talk about that in a second. And then later on, as if we need to, as if we want to talk more about Gaza, but I think it's important to kind of talk about the reality of what Gazans are going through. So, what we hear is that, we want to bring aid into the territory, and we've seen how, the IDF and many Israeli protesters are blocking said aid. And this in part has led to, Gazans essentially being starved out.
Yep.
So we are going to talk about that later as well.
Cool.
And then so you interviewed, that was kind of your first segment. So
Yep.
what's your other segment?
My other segment is Callous Disregard by one of our favorites, John Kiriakou. Going to tell you about some shitty prison stuff, because that's what Kiriakou knows what to talk about, among other things. So, and specifically, it's going to be Louisiana prison night. So strap in for plantation thoughts and, picking cotton and stealing cornbread. Like,
oh yeah, this was the story that I brought to you, I think, last week, and because it was just so callous.
Yeah, I
we
had
had
to
enough
pull it
plan
in.
prep. We
Yeah.
pull it in for this week. Okay, so.
Yep. So, but yeah, that's what I got. We're gonna cover some terrible prison things. So, Anyway, you ready to get started?
Yeah. So
cool. As always, make sure you support us. Well, look at that. You can go to patreon.com/Indie News Network. You can go to that right there. You can also go to Rockfin and Rumble. You can go to that, which we're about to check on things before we start. But you can go to Rockfin and Rumble. You can go to Cash App. Look at that. Look, you put the money sign, Indie News Network. Very easy. Very rememberable. Very easy. So
we still need to figure out a way for people to give. Yeah.
So I can pull up Rockfin and Rumble. It's just I make it real small, and then I have to zoom in, and then my actual Rockfin thing is hella zoomed. So I got to figure that out. But otherwise, thank you to our supporters. I think there's some new people on here. Should be some new people. It's very nice. One of the Substack members. Yeah, look at that. Yeah. You can give monthly on our Substack. We do stuff there. So anyway, we did this. So let me get to the right thing.
Starts at 22.
Cool. Yep. Let me check the Rockfin. Dave Burt holding it down. Remember hearing Collin was a badass teacher for a long time. Very badass. You're a badass teacher. You're like the Jean-Claude Van Damme of teaching.
Oh God, thank you.
Like
Appreciate
Bloodsport.
Sometimes.
Claire Daly.
Or other bodily fluids in my case.
Yep. So Arim, hello superstars. Anyway, if you're on the Rumble, leave us a little note in the chat. Leave us a little note. Leave us a little love note. We love notes. All right. Let's go over here to this. Collin, explain.
So this was somewhat trending, I believe, over the weekend through yesterday, that there was a bill being proposed by the House, or I believe the Senate actually, to give Israel $17.6 billion towards military aid. So I believe as of yesterday, that did not go through. So it goes to show, I think in part, and we'll probably talk more about this, the protests are working, people. So keep them up. We rarely read mainstream, but I think sometimes it's important to read mainstream. So this is from the Washington Post, written by Abigail Hochschlanger, Mariana Sotomayor, and Liz Goodwin. And they write, House GOP fails to pass Israel package as congressional impasse continues. So they continue to say, the Republican-led House yesterday failed to pass a bill that sought to provide billions of dollars in military aid to Israel, extending an impasse over how to address some of the United States' top national security concerns in a Congress increasingly paralyzed by political infighting. The outcome was 250 to 180 in favor, but the measure required a 2/3 majority to pass. So it's actually very close. House Speaker Mike Johnson called for a vote on the $17.6 billion legislation, pitching it as a GOP counteroffer to a more sprawling Senate bill that also includes money for Ukraine, Taiwan, and U.S. border security. Johnson declared earlier that the Senate measure would either be dead on arrival should it reach the lower chamber, with many Republicans arguing it does not go far enough to address illegal immigration after former President Donald Trump urged them to oppose it.
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday's vote, minutes after House Republicans also fell short in their bid to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, punctuated back-to-back losses for Johnson, and left uncertain the path ahead for funding President Biden's national security policies. The Senate bill, which faces a key vote today, is also expected to fail in its current form. The standalone House bill includes funds only for Israel and U.S. forces in the Middle East. See, isn't it interesting that when they want to, they're able to do standalone bills for the things that they really want, not necessarily what we want? Like, when we're going to get a standalone bill for Medicare for all, for example, or I don't know, like any progressive policy, it's always attached to something shit. So, but anyway. The standalone House bill includes funds only for Israel and U.S. forces in the Middle East, priorities, Johnson said earlier yesterday, that must be decoupled from other national security initiatives. Supporting Israel remains a priority for the Biden administration and many lawmakers of both political parties as the war in Gaza continues and U.S. troops in the region face escalated attacks from Iranian proxies. While the vote failed, Republicans were able to use it as messaging leverage against Democrats, who bemoaned Republicans for passing an Israel-funded bill 3 months ago that also included cuts to the IRS. Republicans claimed then that the spending cuts would offset funding for Israel, which Democrats considered a breach in precedent since supplemental bills to foreign allies often do not include such measures. Johnson dared House Democrats to vote against it, arguing he would put a clean funding bill on the floor so that they could support it. In the end, 46 Democrats voted for the bill Tuesday, and 14 Republicans, all from the far right, voted against it.
Far right.
But the GOP bill, what's that?
Far right.
Far right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But a GOP bill proposed by Republican Ken Talbert was condemned by many Democrats, including staunch supporters of the Jewish state, who labeled it as a political stunt that had little to do with Israel's right to self-defense and everything to do with the chaos that has engulfed the Republican Party. Biden had said earlier that he would have vetoed it. We should reject this unserious effort, Republican Luisa DeLorio in the House Appropriations Committee Tots Democrat said on the House floor ahead of the vote. The majority has opted to consider a bill that we know the president will veto. This accomplishes nothing and delays aid getting out to our allies and providing humanitarian relief. Tuesday's vote comes days after Senate leaders unveiled a $118 billion bill that includes funding for all the administration's national security priorities and a GOP wish list of immigration reforms. It is the product of months of bipartisan negotiations between a team of senators and the White House that began when Republicans say they would support additional Ukraine aid, only if Democrats agreed to dramatic new immigration restrictions. Yesterday, just days after the draft of a bipartisan border bill was released, lawmakers are baffled by its demise. Support for the Senate bill, however, has swiftly fallen apart. Trump, Biden's likely proponent in this year's presidential election, has mischaracterized contours of the legislation, and he encouraged other Republicans to not to back it even before the bill's text was released this past weekend. Calvert, the House bill sponsor, said his proposal was a clean bill devoid of less popular national security provisions. Assertions that this bill plays politics are patently false, he said on the House floor shortly before the vote. We have an opportunity today to come together and send a strong message. The United States stands with Israel, he said. The only people making it political are those who oppose it. Johnson, speaking at a news conference early in the day, suggested that after Israel is taken care of, lawmakers would deal with other issues. We have to deal with these measures independently and separately. I think they merit that, he told reporters.
I feel like you had to read that in a mafia voice. Once Israel's taken care of, it's like, ugh. What the gabagoo.
The negotiated Senate proposal did not contain real border security reform, he said, so that's why it's a non-starter. They did not fulfill the requirements and needs of the country. Support for Israel has remained strong on Capitol Hill despite growing angst among progressive Democratic voters as the death toll in Gaza has surpassed 27,000, mostly women and children, according to
teen angst. They're like, it's teen angst. It's political eye rolling. That's what they think it is.
Yeah. According to local health officials, and Israel has hindered Palestinians' access to food, water, and medicine. The Israel-only bill marked the second Republican attempt in 3 months to split the assistance for America's closest Middle East ally from Biden's largest supplemental funding request.
Yep.
Some of Israel's most vocal Democratic backers, including Representative Jared Lotowski, signaled they would vote in favor of the bill despite their support for the largest national security package because, as Murkowski explained in an interview, Congress has proved too chaotic and unpredictable to count on it passing much else. I think there's a plausible scenario that if this dies, everything else is dead, he said earlier in the day, referring to the money sought for Ukraine aid and border security. Ahead of the vote, dozens of lawmakers, including Democratic leaders and members of the ultra-conservative House Freedom Caucus, said they would reject the bill. We are prepared to support any serious bipartisan effort in connection with the special relationship between the United States and Israel, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Democratic Whip Catherine Clark, and Democratic Caucus Chair Pete Aguilar, wrote in a Dear Colleague memo Tuesday ahead of the vote.
Was it like a Dear John letter?
But the standalone legislation is not being offered in good faith, they said. Rather, it is a nakedly obvious and cynical attempt by MAGA extremists to undermine the possibility of a comprehensive bipartisan funding package that addresses America's national security challenges in the Middle East, Ukraine, the Indo-Pacific region, and throughout the world. Far-right Republicans, meanwhile, have tested their leaders routinely by demanding spending cuts to any funding bill. Those lawmakers supported Johnson's initial supplemental $14 billion Israel bill that included cuts to the IRS, allowing the measure to pass to the Democratic-controlled Senate, which immediately rejected it. It's unclear how lawmakers will proceed now.
Unclear.
Thoughts? Oh,
well,
wait, sorry, I thought that's more, but go ahead.
And no, I'll let you finish. I think we were getting to a stop point anyway. So
yeah. National security experts and Ukraine advocates on Capitol Hill have warned for months that fresh military assistance for Kyiv is perhaps the most critical priority contained in the emergency spending package Biden proposed months ago. It is also the most endangered as more Republican lawmakers cite skeptical voters for the fading willingness to help the embattled former Soviet republic. Republican Representative Adam Schiff, the ranking Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee, said in a statement Tuesday night that passing Israel aid on its own would have taken pressure off House Republicans to move forward with a vote on funding for Ukraine. Lawmakers from both parties have also long complained about the United States immigration system, where the Senate brokered deal represented one of the most significant bipartisan reform efforts in decades.
Mm-hmm.
On Tuesday, Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said the Republican conference had concluded there was no real chance here to turn a larger national security bill with its negotiated border deal into law, given Johnson's opposition. In a startling pivot, McConnell and several other Senate Republicans said weeks ago that they would not approve Ukraine aid and other national security funding without a border deal, suggested instead that they might proceed with a bill to aid Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan, but that now excludes border provisions. Several other Republicans, including Lindsey Graham and Todd Young, also voiced support for the idea. McConnell said it was up to Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to decide how to repackage the Senate bill after the expected vote on it probably fails today.
Yeah.
Schumer did not directly rule out the proposal, but said Democrats were angry and frustrated with Republicans about face on a deal the GOP had explicitly requested. Johnson, too, initially opposed the idea of moving on Ukraine funding without significant reforms to border policy. They just don't have the backbone, the guts, the spine to resist the blandishments of Trump, even when they know he's wrong, Schumer said at a news conference yesterday. Thoughts?
Well, they already vetoed this, right?
Yeah, it's dead.
Okay. So, I mean, it sounded like standard congressional bill. Throw 1,000 things into it. Hope one of them sticks. And the ones we really want, we can make standalones anyway.
Right.
So, and pass those. Which those, of course, passed, right? So.
No.
Okay.
Because that was where the law of the pork came in terms of border security and like all Ukraine and all this other stuff. So, so now I think because politicians actually listen to their base, and now support for Ukraine has dwindled in the last couple of years, they're a lot more hesitant now to make that funding for Ukraine. But Republicans are also very much pro border security and all that kind of stuff. But as you said, it's just trying to put in some good shit in the midst of, for them, in the midst of not so good shit that gives them the excuse to basically fight among each other. When, as you said, they can just do a clean bill on these things, on pretty much everything, and it will pass. So I think it's just a way to kind of appeal to their base, especially with Republicans, to say we're actually trying shit without actually doing anything.
Gotcha.
And giving giving room to say, well, Democrats voted against it, whatever. So just it's theater, basically. It's
okay. Cool. Are they going to do a little song and dance for us? Is that what you're trying to say?
No. But I think regardless of all that, though, it does show to me that the fact that Biden was willing to veto this bill, even though there was an Israel component to it, I think does show that he's a little more, seemingly more cagey in terms of knowing what people are saying to him, like people on the ground directly saying to him regarding their displeasure about the Israel-Gaza assault. And his response could essentially determine his presidency come next year. So it's going to be an interesting few months to see. I honestly don't believe this is going to last too long. this in a way is kind of Biden's stand up. Basically, can say, "Oh, I did not, I did not support this bill." He can say that now. I would veto. It's easy. It's easy to say he would veto it, knowing that it was going to get shot down anyway. So
Right.
I don't necessarily see that as a good thing for Biden. It'll be interesting though to see within the next few months, because I'm sure, as this assault continues, that Netanyahu will be like what Zelensky was doing, is like,
Yeah, where my money?
you want us to defeat the Hamas? Give me money, or whatever, however he speaks. So
I think that's a
I'm
good
sure
impression.
Biden will kind of give in to him.
I think we're gonna make you do
eventually.
every Netanyahu impression from now on. But anyway, let us know what you think. Leave a comment, like and subscribe, hit the share button. We're heavily suppressed. Every little bit helps. So hit that subscribe. Get us to 2K. The number's going up. I see you people putting the number up. Very useful. Let me go check the Rockfin and Rumbles. Dave Burt tipped $2. Thank you to INN. I gotta get to the store.
Thank you.
Before it closes. Great stuff. Love Reef's very smart and funny wit, and Collins intrepid and nimble laying it out too. So
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Although I will say, Reef knows this, I feel like I have imposter syndrome every week.
Yeah.
Every week.
Yeah, that's just all the time.
Yeah.
So
But I appreciate your comments though.
yes. If you're on Rumble, leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Get in that
Let
chat.
us know you're there.
Right. It's very simple. You're either a lizard person or you can leave a comment. And, this is the crusade we fight. Cool. Let's get to this story. So, John Kiriakou, Collin, we've had him on the show before. Well, not had him. We've had his articles on the show.
Yeah, not personally. We're working on that. But we should work on that.
Yeah.
He's DC, so.
So he wants to write specifically about Lucas Bellamy and Brandon Clay Dotson. Any of those names ring a bell to you, Care Bear? So they show how easy it is to die a medically preventable death in U.S. prisons. So that's where we start. Yay, fun prison stuff. The suffering of our peoples. So, Kiriakou writes, I've had a rough week. Last Saturday, I worked all day writing and gathering documents for a court case. It was completely normal and uneventful day, and I went to bed at 10 o'clock. At 2:05 a.m., my phone alarm went off to tell me that my blood sugar was too low, so I got up to get something to eat. I don't remember getting downstairs, but I woke up half an hour later, lying on the kitchen floor after having passed out. I was soaked in sweat as if I had taken a shower with my clothes on. I have 2 housemates and I began calling for help. Unfortunately, nobody heard me. I tried pulling myself up, but I passed out again. I woke up at 3:30 in the same place and began calling for help. This time, one of my housemates heard me. He came down, helped me onto the couch, and got me a soda to raise my blood sugar level. But that turned out to not be the problem. When my blood sugar crashes, it only takes 5 minutes to right itself. This was going into the second hour. After yet another hour on the couch, I asked him to help me get back into bed, but as soon as I tried to get up, I passed out again. He called 911. I have no memory of being taken to the Virginia Hospital Center in Arlington. The only thing I recall is a fleeting memory of a doctor shouting my name and saying, John, can you hear me? We're taking you straight into surgery, okay? I mumbled, okay. I came out of it at 10:30 a.m. The surgeon and the internal medicine physician came to see me later in the day. They said I had a massive blood clot on my esophagus sitting on top of my equally massive bleeding ulcer. It apparently been caused by 18 years of daily baby aspirin. I had a second surgery on Tuesday to remove a second clot and to laser the ulcer, and I came home on Wednesday after having 3 blood transfusions and 3 infusions of iron. It was the closest I have ever come to death, and I have my housemates to thank for literally saving my life.
Wow.
So, that was Kiriaku's story. But he wanted to relate it to another story of someone not so lucky. So Kiriaku reiterates that he was lucky, but what would have happened to someone in a similar circumstance in prison, where nobody cares if you live or die, and where medical care varies from substandard to non-existent? I think the answer is an easy one. Look at the case of Lucas Bellamy. He had been arrested in Minnesota on suspicion of vehicle theft. Immediately before the arrest, he ate a bag of drugs in an effort to fool police into thinking that he didn't have any. But he immediately began feeling sick. Jail officers took him to a local hospital where he was treated. The doctor there told the jailers to return him to the hospital if he became ill again. Bellamy never showed any improvement, and indeed he began vomiting as soon as he got back to his cell. By evening, he was refusing food and crawling around his cell as a guard and nurse stood and watched him. By noon the next day, he was dead on the floor. So here's CBS News Minnesota. Family sues Hennepin County Jail over Lucas Bellamy's death, saying he begged for medical care. So there he literally is on his knees, begging. Right. So whistleblower reality winner had a health-related experience that made her appreciate exactly where she stood with prison officials. Realizing that she had contracted COVID-19, she informed a guard and said she thought she should be isolated. The guard's response was simple and direct. "Winner," he said, "nobody gives a shit about you." That's the reality of the American prison system. The case of Brandon Clay Dodson is even worse. Dodson was arrested on a burglary charge and was being held in the local jail in Clayton, Alabama. He told a guard that several other prisoners had been beating him, and he asked to be moved into segregated housing for his own protection. He later told the guards in solitary that he wasn't feeling well, but they ignored him. And a day after that, the 43-year-old was found dead in his bed. Prison officials sent Dodson's body to the Barber County, Alabama coroner, who later sent it to the University of Alabama Medical Center. It was finally returned to his family, severely decomposed, 3 weeks later. And as if it weren't bad enough,
what?
Brandon Dodson's heart was missing.
That's negligence right there. Like, like, if he was in that so he
Right.
went to the medical center. They had to do the autopsy.
Yeah.
So basically they mishandled him, guessing because he was in jail. They basically mishandled him and just didn't give him the care or whatever.
No one would
and they were
care.
just like,
Right.
whatever. So fun fact, I'm a Undertaker's son. So I do know like some of this.
Yeah.
But essentially first of all, it doesn't take that long for your body to decompose. Like it takes, I think, roughly like about 2 weeks, assuming that like you're not kept in like refrigeration or whatever. Like if you're just exposed, like you start decomposing immediately, but you start decomposing to the point where it's actually noticeable, I believe, within 2 weeks. If you just died on the floor in your house.
Yeah.
So this kind of says to me that when he got to the coroner slot, they didn't put him in refrigeration to kind of slow down the decomposition. So they just had him out. I think they probably just did the motions of doing an autopsy on him and like, not to say like when they check your internal organs, just as a way to kind of see cause of death. But then when they're done, if you don't donate them, or if they don't donate them to research, they'll put them back in. They don't necessarily have to put them in the same place, but at least close
They're in
enough so
there.
that they're in there.
Yeah,
You
like
know,
like
so
the
the
turkey
idea,
giblets. You just put them back in a
right?
bag,
Exactly.
and you put them back in,
Right.
so that you can make gravy later.
Right.
But
So again, so all that to say, there is extreme mishandlement and lack of care
right,
in this guy's death. So just to kind of give some context of like, oh, what's the big deal? The big deal is like his body should not have been severely decomposed if
yeah,
he went to a coroner/medical center. That your body should be technically kept in refrigeration.
yeah, right. So
So
it's probably too much to expect things to turn around. Oh, sorry. The family has filed a federal lawsuit against the jail, the coroner, and the University of the Alabama Medical Center, but nobody seems to know what happened to the errant organ. My guess is that they'll never find it. The bottom line is, as Reality Winner was told, nobody gives a shit.
right.
Excuse me. It's probably too much to expect things to turn around, but just a few months ago, in a 140-page ruling, a federal judge in Louisiana ruled against the administrators of Louisiana State Penitentiary at Angola. Collin, I've mentioned Angola to you before.
You have.
So, Angola prisoners are part of a hidden workforce linked to hundreds of popular food brands. So, Angola is New Orleans State Penitentiary, is the way people think about it, right? So, it is a plantation. Like, I couldn't literally be more literal. It is a plantation. So, we will get into it. A hidden path to America's dinner tables begin here at an unlikely source, a former southern slave plantation that is now the country's largest maximum security prison.
I mean,
signed, sealed.
I mean, it makes sense. Hate saying it that way, but it makes sense.
Yep.
To go from a plantation to a prison.
Unmarked trucks packed with prison-raised cattle roll out of Louisiana State Penitentiary, where men are sentenced to hard labor and forced to work for pennies an hour, or sometimes nothing at all. What's that called, Collin?
What's that?
Well, if you're working for nothing at all?
Oh, slavery.
Yeah, or unpaid internship.
Right.
But
that's the nice way of saying it.
Right.
That's the liberal way of saying it.
Exactly.
That's what the new history books that don't want to talk about slavery are going to say now. They got, like, black people got unpaid internships.
Right. Yep. So after rumbling down a country road to an auction house, the cows are bought by a local rancher and then followed by the Associated Press another 600 miles to a Texas slaughterhouse that feeds into the supply chains of giants like McDonald's, Walmart, and Cargill. So, here it is, right? Intricate, invisible webs, just like this one. Like some of the world's largest food companies and most popular brands, to jobs performed by U.S. prisoners nationwide. According to a sweeping 2-year AP investigation into prison labor that tied hundreds of millions of dollars worth of agricultural products to goods sold on the open market. So they are among America's most vulnerable laborers. If they refuse to work, some can jeopardize their chances of parole or face punishment, like being sent to solitary. They also are often excluded from protections guaranteed in almost all other full-time workers, even when they are seriously injured or killed on the job. The goods these prisoners produce wind up in the supply chains of dizzying array of products found in most American kitchens, from Frosted Flakes cereal and ballpark hot dogs to Gold Medal flour, Coca-Cola, and Riceland rice. They are on the shelves of virtually every supermarket in the country, including Kroger, Target, Aldi, and Whole Foods, and some goods are exported, including to countries that have products blocked from entering the U.S. for using force or prison labor. Many of the companies buying directly from prisons are violating their own policies against the use of such labor, but it's completely legal, dating back largely to the need for labor to help rebuild the South's shattered economy after the Civil War. Enshrined in the Constitution by the 13th Amendment, slavery and involuntary servitude are banned, except for punishment as a crime. That clause is currently being challenged on the federal level, and efforts to remove similar language from state constitutions are expected to reach the ballot in about a dozen states this year. So, some prisoners work on the same plantation soil where slaves harvested cotton, tobacco, and sugarcane more than 150 years ago, when some present-day images looking eerily similar to the past. In Louisiana, which has one of the country's highest incarceration rates, men working on the farm line will stoop over crops stretching far into the distance. Willie Ingram picked everything from cotton to okra during his 51 years in the state penitentiary, better known as Angola. During his time in the fields, he was overseen by armed guards on horseback and recalled seeing men working with little or no water, passing out in triple-digit heat. Some days, he said, workers would throw their tools in the air to protest, despite knowing the potential consequences. They'd come, maybe 4 in the truck, shields over their face, billy clubs, and they'd beat you right there in the field. They beat you, handcuff you, and beat you again, said Ingram, who received a life sentence after pleading guilty to a crime he said he didn't commit. He was told he would serve 10.5 years and avoid a possible death penalty, but it wasn't until 2021 that a sympathetic judge finally released him. He was 73. So, yeah. Meanwhile, on the federal level, Senators Dick Durbin and Chuck Grassley tasked the Justice Department's Bureau of Prisons with fixing what they called a medical system that has allowed people in its care to die preventable deaths. This came after NPR reported that, just at the federal level, 4,950 prisoners had died of preventable illness while in custody in the past 10 years. In a statement, Durbin said, "It is deeply upsetting that families are mourning the loss of their loved ones because they were not afforded the proper medical care they deserved while incarcerated." Grassley added, "I'm deeply alarmed by reports that the Bureau of Prisons has demonstrated foot dragging when it comes to providing medical care to those in its custody. The BOP needs to be held responsible for this failure and take action to raise its standards." Durbin and Grassley are right, of course, but a press statement isn't going to change anything. The problem is prevalent at every level of government and is exacerbated by a national penchant for prioritizing the privatization of jails and prisons. What better way to make profit than to cut medical care? In the meantime, prisoners across the country have to try to fend for themselves, and when disaster strikes, they have to hope that somebody gives a shit. Thoughts, Care Bear?
Yeah, I have a thought. I kind of have a story. So when I went to Barbados to visit my dad 2 summers ago, he actually had a client meet up with him when he was there that we spoke to for several hours. Essentially, they wanted to do a funeral for, I believe it was the woman's brother, if I remember correctly. Long story short, he died. He lived alone. He died in his apartment in London, and his body wasn't discovered. I think it was either weeks or months. And the only reason why they figured out that he died was because obviously his body was decomposing to the point where it was starting sticking up other apartments. So they called the police, and the police, had to knock down the door and found that he was dead. So they had to take care of his brother's body, So, but the idea he kind of died alone with nobody, and he had family, but he just died alone in his apartment, and nobody knew for months or cared about him for months. to, what happened to him. Like, I live alone, and actually that's kind of one of my fears. If like if
Mm-hmm.
something happened to me, like, would I be taken care of? Not even necessarily in death, but like if I got into a major accident, like who would take care of me? That's
Well,
definitely something.
if you get a cat, the cat will at least eat you before people get there. So,
Right, but see, I'm allergic to cats, and I don't want a pet. So what
oh
am I gonna
yeah.
do?
I mean, that's why they're
But
convenient.
right, but kind of going along with this, and I think what John Kiyoko was saying is like, actually, now that I'm asking, like, how old is he? Like, he must be young then. Not necessarily like would assume he was older, but he was like living with roommate, or at least it may have been sometime a story he was mentioning in the past. But
Yeah.
regardless, he's fortunate to have roommates that was able to kind of turn to, like when he had his his medical issue. But and jail aside, just like just the lack of care. And I think this kind of speaks to where we're at now in terms of how isolated we are now, just generally as society. And we kind of keep to ourselves, even like on the same street. Like I don't even look. I have my neighbors. I live above me. I know them, but I haven't hung out with them.
Right.
They are cool enough guys. There's a group of 4 of them that live upstairs from me, but I don't hang out with them. I don't know them, and I don't really know. I don't know anybody in on my street, at all.
Right.
And I think this just kind of speaks to a larger issue in our society now, where we're just kind of isolating ourselves. We don't know our neighbors. We don't know the people who live around us, and if something happens to you, it's basically the idea of like you're on your own.
Right.
So but I think just the idea of like, if you're a person of color in the jail system, just the disregard that they will give you in terms of using you. And this is not new. Like, this is what Kamala Harris, like that's why people hate her, because she promoted
Incarcerated
shit
people, yeah.
like this.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Shit like this. So like, this is why the Black community hates her guts, among other things, but the idea that, even granted, you're in jail, like you're living out your sentence, like at minimum, there should be some type of respect in terms of you being human. Yeah, granted, whatever you did, but there should be some level of basic care that you should be giving to, prisoners who are in the penitentiary system. But unfortunately, if you're a person of color, as they said, they deem you just worthless and just useless, and like, they don't care if you die or whatever on the floor,
Yeah.
like you're just seen as subhuman, which it scares me, like in that instance. But I think it scares me more like that doesn't have to happen in jail. That can just happen to anybody at any given time, just living life.
Well, we know who teaches our justice system how to justice. So, anyway, let's know what you think. Leave a comment. Do all the stuff. Share. It's easy. Send this to your friend. Copy the link. Send it. Put it in a carrier pigeon. Pop it over there. Help us get to 2K. We're getting there. Hit that big subscribe button. Make the number go up. It should light up. Look at it light up. It doing the light dance. Excuse me. Rockfin and Rumble, right?
So actually, we got some breaking news.
Sure.
In the chat.
Yeah.
So BigMadCrab reported
mm-hmm.
that Marianne Williamson has now officially dropped out.
Okay. Well, I someone I'm sure is owed $5.
No, I think for us, it was just a matter of when she was going to do it. I said, what did I say? I think, did I say March?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, her book comes out when?
May.
Mm-hmm.
May.
It's gonna be May.
Well, I think I saw, if you pull up, I think Crab pulled up, shout out to you, Crab, for saying that. Pull up his tweet, because I believe it kind of alludes to the fact, I have to, like, Marianne is dropping out so she can
Yeah.
like, just how blatant that is. It's just like, this wasn't about, actually winning the presidency. I think most of us knew, like we've been caught on to that, but it's just how blatant it was of being like, oh, this is nothing more than just a book tour for her. So now she can go off, like, within the next few months. She can kind of step away from this for a bit.
Bro, where did you find this, Crab?
What?
Was this in the political? Was this the political article? Because the guru, made famous by some viral moments on the 2020 debate stage, will turn to promoting her new book this spring.
Yeah.
So even they're saying it. Look, this is us live on X. Look at that. We're live on the tweets.
Right. I mean,
Inception.
Look, I don't think we need to talk about this really at all. Like, we talked a little bit about Marianne last year, but we knew, like, RBN said it, Due Dissonance said it, Harlan Zia said it. This was not a serious campaign. The only people that made it serious were, we know who tried to make this a thing. And I just feel bad for the people that supported her and more often than not gave her money
in
order to essentially
officiate the wedding.
The wedding, like
the white wedding.
The white wedding. And then, like, this is nothing more than a publicity tour for a book. Same thing with Jen. Like, she had no interest of trying to push the system. She ran within the Democratic Party, which people warned her or mentioned to her from the beginning that they're not going to look at you. They're not going to pay you any mind. And that's exactly what what was happening. But she was having the face of, oh, they're ignoring me. Bitch, we know, like, you got told that by RBN and others that was going to happen to you, and you didn't give a shit. So, but again, it's like the idea that
none of the above at this point.
But so this was an obvious scam from the jump. And to the people who look, I get that people are desperate for something new and are desperate for something different in terms of how our political structure is set up, and want to deviate from that. Like us here, we want that deviation too. But especially, like, doing this work, on the local level, like, what I'm strongly believing is the only way that we're going to get change on the ground is locally and state level, because there, at least, people have more control over what happens. The federal system is completely fucked, and I have no faith in that whatsoever at this point. The only way that I feel that people are actually going to get something on the federal level, if there's enough pressure from the states, but that has to come from what happens on the ground within those states to actually force the federal government to actually do something. But Marianne obviously did not heed to that. She did not care about it. She only cared about her prestige, and other people in her orbit only cared about their prestige in terms of what her running could actually mean to them. And so anyone who got caught up in the idea of running in the Democratic Party, her running in the Democratic Party to try and change the system, got scammed. Sorry, not sorry. But there were enough people in this space that said that, and you still decided to give her support anyway. I do not feel sorry for you in this case. Like, the Democratic Party as it is a dead end. That should be blatantly obvious to everybody, at least in our audience, should be completely aware of by now. And so to do anything within the part, I would just say generally within like federal politics is totally fucked. Like, no business, we should have no business with it as of right now at this point. So, so all that to say, I'm not surprised. I think the only thing that surprised me is that I thought I had her gone by March.
Yeah.
So we did not place bets, by the way.
No.
But yeah, like, it's not surprising. And I just feel bad for like some of the bigger channels that pushed her as a thing that actually has an audience that did support her. I'm just kind of like, really?
Well,
really?
I mean, her stuff on this is her Israel support was dog shit.
Right.
But
So
let us know what you think.
she had
leave a comment. I'm sure people will tell us that, I'm sorry, you were right, can be put in the comment section below.
Well, that being said, though, like, let's see if she does the dirty break. Like, let's wait for that. So if anything, so anyone who's watching, like, do a petty party on Marianne's Twitter and be like, so are you going to do a dirty break now? Like, are you going to run? I guess not, because she's done. Otherwise, she would have said, oh, I'm running independent. So I think she's completely done. So
can you stop embarrassing yourself?
So to hell, I'll say the name. So to Vanguard,
it is Gavin's
Crystal,
special living
Kyle,
wish to be roasted by his favorite comedians.
Brianna Joy Gray, who tried to make Marianne a thing. You guys can get fucked. Every last one of you. So
what? Huh?
What? We're done. So
like and subscribe.
Let's talk about something.
Feel free to share that. Make people see what Collin says.
You try to get me in trouble.
What? Who? No, me? I would never.
You would. You would.
Yeah. Well, our last story this evening.
Last story, and probably more important than Marianne dropping out.
Far more important.
Way more important is Gaza. Well, we talked about Gaza ad nauseum, and I honestly feel in a way terrible. I'm just over it in terms of how saturated like this issue has become, but more importantly, just over like the effects that nobody is necessarily talking about, just the day-to-day of Gazans, of what they have to go through. Like, it's fine to talk about it in terms of, the bombing and all that kind of stuff, or whatever, or displacement, whatever, but people are not necessarily thinking about like the effects from that. Like, what is the day-to-day life for Gazans on the ground and what they have to deal with. I don't think it's talked about enough. We just talk about it like more as a theory, like, oh, we have to give them aid, and all that kind of stuff. But thinking about it more in theory is not helping them right now. And to the point, last week we talked about how women, like, have to use pieces of tents in order as women bodily products in order to take care of themselves. This story, like we're going to talk about tonight, they have no food. Well, not to say they have no food, that they don't have enough food is probably more accurate. So just to give some context, let's watch this clip from Al Jazeera that kind of goes into it a little bit more, and then we'll unpack it after that.
Desperation is growing by the day, with hunger becoming unbearable for many across Gaza. Thousands of Palestinians surround a truck delivering aid in Gaza City, but there's not enough for everyone. Famine is now a reality for many, and health workers warn it's one that will likely get worse.
The situation is tragic. The word famine doesn't do justice. The word misery isn't enough. People are eating fodder. They're eating animals. Our water, electricity and internet has been cut. Food and flour is limited. Surviving is just so challenging.
Many displaced families who have lost everything over the last 3 months have to wait for days for a single sack of flour.
We don't have jobs and we don't have money. The price of a sack of flour used to be $10. Now it's sold for $200. We came here to face death just for the sake of having one bag of flour.
Some people have been killed while waiting for aid. The Gaza Health Ministry says Israeli forces recently killed at least 20 Palestinians who were lined up and waiting for food deliveries. A sense of despair is spreading.
We are starving. We have to eat animal food. We don't care about death anymore. They can kill me. I just want to have a bag of flour to give my family.
With little to no chance of getting flour, some people are using animal fodder to make their bread. That's until it also runs out. Palestinian workers say their options are vanishing.
If you go out to get flour, you will die. And if you stay at home, you will also die from hunger. We started eating rice and lentils, and now the rice has run out.
UN officials say a quarter of Gaza's population of 2.3 million men, women, and children is facing starvation. And as the war continues, more Palestinians are likely to face a similar fate. Katia Lopez-Odoyan, Al Jazeera.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.
Do. Subscribe to Al Jazeera. They do okay sometimes.
Yeah. So let's unpack this a little bit more. So Warren Al Jazeera, this is written by Mohammed Lawashish, I guess that's how you Lawish, I guess.
Mahawish.
Where he reports, this is him. This is an essay he wrote. We are being starved, dispatched from Gaza City as Israeli assault continues. I don't write to engender sorrow. Had sorrow moved people, we wouldn't be where we are now, writes Mohammed Mulawish from Gaza City. So he continues. For us in Gaza City, enduring the daily struggles like staying safe, fighting hunger, and protecting ourselves against the biting cold is a war in of itself, as Israel's assault on Gaza grinds on for the past 120 days. Hundreds of thousands of people have lost their homes at a time when that was all they had. Then after that came the loss of a simple place to shelter, as Israel bombed them all. Hospitals, schools, clinics, and any open space where civilians gathered. The entire population of Gaza has been displaced. The entire population. After our house was bombed, I was no longer just a witness to the thousands of people fleeing their homes to find safety wherever they could. We went to the United Nations shelter in the north of Gaza. My family and I gathered whatever would help us survive and becoming displaced like our country people. There are about 600,000 people in North Gaza grappling with loss amid deprivation, starvation, and disease because they do not want to leave their land. It breaks my heart, but I have to admit we've lost the sense of what home means. Just finding the bare minimum space and shelter from the elements we need to rest has become a journey of heartache and pain, our misery daily routine of looking around to see where we can possibly sleep. My family, father, mother, sister, wife, and 2-year-old son, and I are seeking relative refuge in the parking garage of a destroyed apartment building. We dread looking at the weather in these winter conditions. All day we're trying to find a forecast, breathless, worried that rain would be expected that night. On rainy nights, I take off my coat and wrap it around my baby, making it both a blanket and protection for him against the cold, with hope and prayer that it will be enough for his small body. Beyond shelter is the struggle for food. I cannot recall the last proper meal my son had. Wheat is nowhere to be found, so we have been using animal field grade barley and corn to grind our flour for bread. Even these alternatives are scarce, but they are only means to get through the day. It's not like there is the space and security to grow your own food either, with the bombs and intentional choking off our supplies, even water. The aid entering this besieged enclave is very limited and cannot cover our daily basic needs. So we have had to try to survive for these past 4 months with no incomes or livelihoods as the prices of essentials skyrocket, if you can find them at all. Palestinians received food rations at a donation point at a camp for displaced people in Rafah in the southern Gaza Strip on February 2nd, 2004. The situation in the north is much more dire. As a result, starvation is beyond widespread in the north of Gaza. Babies, children, adults, and the elderly are all suffering from the lack of food. An ounce of coffee used to be 10 shekels, around $2.75, and now it costs 120 shekels, $33. A liter of drinking water that costs a shekel, less than 30 cents, is now 15 shekels, $4. If you secure food, you still have to cook it, and with no cooking gas, people are combing the ruins to find anything they can burn for a cooking fire, exposing themselves to bombing at any time. And so when every hour of the day is spent either looking for food or a means to make it, we cannot always worry about staying safe. Medical service in North Gaza have been nearly inoperable since the beginning of the ground invasion, and now there's little more than first aid services for the injured or those in need of intensive medical care. Israel has arrested and killed hundreds of medical personnel, bombed hundreds of medical facilities of various sizes out of service, or depleted their capacity with cuts of fuel and water. For the little that remains functional, how would the wounded get there when at least 122 ambulances have been targeted and bombed? Then comes the danger of the streets, airstrikes, soldiers kidnapping Palestinians or shooting them dead, and the mountains of rubble across Gaza. Even basic medications like antibiotics and painkillers have been scarce for the thousands suffering injuries from Israeli attacks, and so they get infections and respiratory diseases. People need to understand that the number of Palestinians killed in this aggression is much higher than what is being reported. Palestinians die from kidney failure, from cancer, from disease, from a lack of prenatal care. All of these are not recorded. People could have been helped had there been enough equipment and medicine. People can be saved, but there seems to be little intent to save them. I report from my phone when I manage battery and access to the internet or phone service, an endeavor more difficult than ever in North Gaza. Banks, post offices, transportation, and telecommunications all do not work. The list is endless. How can I capture or explain to the world, the ones that even read our words, that what is being endured is not only painful, but avoidable? All calls for support are not for abstract words of diplomatic solidarity, but for urgent action that helps us feel human in the eyes of the world. With every passing hour, fewer and fewer Palestinians in Gaza can appeal to the world. Every day brings more death, and the rest of us remain trying to fight off death. Even basic medications like antibiotics and painkillers have been scarce for the thousands suffering injuries from Israeli attacks, he writes. I do not write of the struggle we are living to engender sorrow. Had sorrow moved people, we wouldn't be where we are now. I'll outline our struggle because, at this point, we have either already been killed or in the process of being killed slowly. We are appealing to the healthy ones, the ones with a bed to rest sleep on, the ones whose voices can be heard outside the slaughterhouse. I write to equip you with the knowledge of what humanity is undergoing. We, the Palestinians of Gaza, are being starved, are sleeping on the streets with no cover from airstrikes. We are being denied our humanity by an army that continues to inflict some of the most painful and inhumane practices of war we know in our modern day. It's time for the world to defy the abuses, to give regard to human life, to keep it simple and basic, like the needs we require to maintain breath.
Yep.
Hate reading that, but
Ooh.
you know, as he said, and as I said, like, I think the problem that we have with our politicians in the US especially is that they talk about the idea of giving aid, but not actually doing the things to ensure that some of the basic needs in Gaza is being met. Like, yeah, food might be getting there. The question is how much, if anything at all. And then, like, there's nowhere to cook it. And then if you have the money, it's super expensive due to inflation. So as he said, it's like, we're still dying. It's just a matter of dying slowly, which is exactly what the Israeli proclamation wants to happen. So, so it's the idea, yeah, you can give food, but is it going to be enough? And then how you're going to sustain yourself with infrastructure that's totally decimated.
Well,
It's what
meanwhile,
people are not
they're blocking aid. They're attacking people in trucks bringing aid. They're attacking people on boats bringing aid. Like, and they tried to stop UNRWA from being an aid organization there as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's just par for the course over there. So,
right.
I hope we still have some journalists left when this is all over there. That would be nice.
Right.
So, but
we do have a friend to the show. I'm not going to say who, for their safety. But they are planning to go.
Head over there. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so, or at least when I talk to them, they have plans to. So we'll keep you updated to see if they do actually end up over there, and hopefully, if they're willing, being able to interview them to see, tell us about the reality of what it is, in Gaza. Because we're not, I mean, it's great that we hear what's happening on the ground, but it's too far few, and then, like, often it's not being reported on. So,
yeah,
just having more, just having more people being able to share what's happening down than just the reality of what we kind of like in this story. I think just a way to kind of help humanize the situation in Gaza and in the West Bank, a lot more than what is being
in Syria and Lebanon, and
exactly, yeah.
So let us know what you think. Leave a comment, like and subscribe, do all the things. Try to get us to 2K. We're getting there. That number's going up. So, but yeah. What else, Collin? I think that's it for the most part.
Yeah.
You can get some stuff at our shop if you want. IndieNews.shop. We got some fun merch there if you want it. Checking the Rockfin. If you're on Rumble, leave some comments. Yeah, we did pretty decent on time for tonight. So, what's coming up this week? Next week we have Halo and Paula from Assange stuff to come on again. So that should be fun. Anything in between then?
Angel probably will go live on Friday night.
Yep.
I'm hearing rumors that Snow Himbo might go live Saturday, maybe.
Okay.
I'm not sure if How Do We Miss That will be happening over the weekend. If
Yeah.
not, we'll let you know. Jesse did not do American Tradition. Oh, before that, Crab, are you going live? I know you're on live, so let us know if you're going live or thinking of going live on Monday, Crab, for Politically Homeless. And I imagine Jesse will be going live on Tuesday with Indy for American Tradition next week.
Yep.
So, so yeah. And then, as I said, we'll be on again next week with more Assange activists.
Yep. So, also shout out to the Independent Review putting our stuff up on AM Wake Up. Appreciate that. Good looking out. Like seeing us in that list of heavy hitters. But yeah, anything else? I think that's it.
No. Don't forget. Actually, next Wednesday is Valentine's Day.
Oh God, yeah.
Or Singles Awareness Day for
Singles
many of us.
Awareness Day, Galentine's
So make sure, or Galentine's Day, but I think that's the day before, right?
I don't
Yeah.
know.
So make sure if you celebrate, make sure you take care of your significant other in whatever you plan to do for them, or not, whatever.
Yep. So,
but just a nice reminder for people in case you forgot. That's actually happening.
Yep. Cool. Well, we should head out then. Free Assange, and labels are bad.
Free Assange.
Stay independent. Good night, fam.
Have a good week, everyone.
We want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Bye, have a great time.